Hello and welcome to Vacation Rental Blueprint, the podcast for short-term rental owners looking to maximize their success in the industry. I'm your host, Tim, and today we're diving into a topic that's crucial for every vacation rental owner and guest alike. That is safety in your short-term rental. Whether you're a seasoned owner or just starting out, ensuring safety of your property and your guests is paramount. It's not just about providing a comfortable stay. It's also about creating a secure environment that gives your guests peace of mind. So buckle up as we delve into the best practices, tips, and specific actions we've taken over the last 2 weeks to help you make your property a safe haven for all guests. But first, as always, welcome our co-host. And I always feel like we have a special guest on the podcast because we always have TC here. TC, how are you?
Hello, doing great. And for you listeners that just tuned in and thought, oh no, another episode on safety, you're going to want to hear this because at the end, you're going to learn how safety can turn into saved dollars back in your pocket. So great to be back. Looking forward to this topic yet again.
Yeah, and I mean, two episodes in a row on safety. So last week we had Justin Ford with Breezeway, really giving a kind of broad check on safety and just kind of introducing the importance and telling some in some cases some scary stories about individuals who maybe own short-term rentals and did not prioritize safety. And then a few weeks before that we had Nick Massey with Proper Insurance. And I think as we kind of run through today's episode, you're gonna see how those two connect and the steps that you can take in order to make those two connect. So, I mean, last week we had a great episode with Justin. Thank you to Justin again. But today let's dig into some details, TC. So one of the things I love and I've really grown to love about our show is the number of listeners who reach out to me directly. I don't make it a secret how to get a hold of me. There's plenty of outlets to find how you can connect with me directly. But the number of individuals, TC, reaching out to me and saying, all right, I'm ready, Tim. I've been following along this entire time. I love the content. I love the business approach and how you both kind of presented and remind me that this is a business I'm buying. And I think I'm ready to either get into my first property or I have a property. I think I'm ready to expand my business. Those connections are so valuable. And, as I think through and anticipate the questions of the individuals that I talk to, I've got a handful right now who are thinking about getting into it and they're about to start searching for their property. So they've got pre-approved, they know where they stand, they know their search parameters, they know where they want to look. And I think the first question that comes to mind and that I've been talking with them about as they're searching properties is this property able to be safe enough to be a short-term rental? And that is a loaded question. You start searching for properties and you're like, oh, I love the lights in this room, or, oh, I love the theming. Oh, what a great furniture set here. I love what they did with the floors. The pool is beautiful. And before you know it, you've seen 10 properties and you don't know which ones had the right smoke detectors. You don't know, which ones had, the proper egress in each of the bedrooms. And that first touch on those properties is really where, you want to get a general understanding of, does this property feel safe? Do things seem to be in place that the previous owner has prioritized safety? And so, TZ, I think, the two dominant property types that our listeners are looking at, and there's a multitude of different property types, but they're looking at property in the mountains and they're looking at property with proximity to the beach, right?
That's exactly right. I think those are two types of homes that most of our listeners are looking at or they own. And I think you set that up well. I think, if you're just searching for a home, I think several of us walk through a home looking at the pretty stuff. Do I need to buy a new bed? Do I need to do this? Do
Guilty.
I need to
Yep.
do that? Yeah. And that's the fun stuff. And I think what we're hoping we all do now as an outcome of this focus on safety is to encourage you to have now a discriminating eye on safety items, such as hey, you're walking through properties you're looking to buy. Now, instead of just looking at the flooring and the countertops, look at the fire alerts, the smoke alarms. Are they the proper kind? Are they new, or will they need to be replaced? Look at stair railings. Are they safe, or is that something that you're going to have to repair during the process of getting it ready for rental? Or the deck, is the deck constructed properly? In the bedrooms, as you said, do you have 2 points of ingress, egress? All of these things are, they're not things that would prevent you from buying the home, but
Right.
they certainly may add cost after you purchase to get it ready for rental. So it's another level of eyes that you've got to have, whether it's the mountains or the beach. Each have their own unique characteristics associated with them, but it's that discriminating eye that's going to, give you a leg up.
Yeah, and I think when you're looking at properties in the mountains and the properties in the beach, and there's all of the different hazards and safety components to it. Starting at the very top of natural disasters. If you're looking at a property in the mountains, what happens if a wildfire is approaching? How do I get off this mountain if I'm looking at this property? And then the beach. What if there's a hurricane? What if there's a big storm that blows through and I've got guests in that rental? And that's the very top level. But then from there, it also kind of drills down into more specifics of the area, the exterior, and then the interior of the property. So I think for everyone out there looking at properties, which hopefully everyone listening here is, if not, reach out to me. Let's talk. But you know, you've come to a point where you're moving forward with the purchase, because you've been looking and or you're looking to expand your number of doors, as I hear so many people say in our industry. Um, you really want to, and TC, where you and I both went through Justin and Breeze Way's short-term rental safety inspector program. I am now officially a certified short-term rental safety inspector, and it was a great program, and it was a great program coming from someone myself who's done service and hospitality uh, industry work as an executive for 25 plus years. So service and hospitality, food and beverage, safety is always our job one. And I went through this training program, um, and I was learning new things, and I was like, oh man, yeah, I never thought of that. I got to think about that. I got to understand these regulations. So from the business perspective, there's the external prioritization, and then there's the internal prioritization. Externally, as you promote your property to prospective guests, yeah, focus on the pretty stuff, focus on the design aesthetic, focus on the layout and all the amenities. Yes, yes, yes. But internally, first and foremost, it is safety, it's security, it's sanitation. Those are the things internally that, ideally, if you're doing your job correctly, the guest never feels that. They just feel how beautiful the space is, and then you've created this safe environment. But, first and foremost, all the rentals need to meet federal, state, and local legal requirements. That's first and foremost. You need to know what these safety standards are at all three levels, because that there's no skirting that whatsoever. If you've got a fire pit and it's placed too close to your rental, per the local codes, you need to address that right away. And then from there, you know, you have to ensure that you're preventing death in your rental. In service and hospitality, it's like, at the very least, don't kill anyone, right? And that's an extreme way to say it, but you have to make sure you're taking the steps necessary to prevent death, and those would probably be the first two big buckets that I would challenge are non-negotiables. And then that last bucket, TC, I think that we think about, and as we've learned, is about injury prevention. And I think this is where it gets a little more gray. It is black and white. You focus on the law side of it and the life safety side of it without question. Prioritize it. If it's an issue, you fix it. But then you get into injury prevention, And then you really start needing to assess your risk tolerance as a business owner and what your safety strategy is going to be for injury prevention. But I mean, and TC, fill in my gaps here, but I'm really looking at those three silos of the legal side, the life safety side, and then the injury prevention side as we prioritize what to attack as short-term rental owners.
I think when it comes to preventing the catastrophic outcomes, the death or the serious injury, I think this is where I think about some actionable items such as, first of all, do you have smoke and fire detection? And are they the right type? Are they hardwired? Do they have battery backup? And are you using your decibel meter? Again, you can get an app on your phone for that. Is it hitting the 85 decibel noise level so that you can be confident people are being alerted? Do you have the ingress, egress to ingress, egress in the bedrooms? If not, you've really got to think about that. And then I also think about the fire extinguishers. And man, I really had to think hard about this one because it's not just about having them, but thinking about where is the fire most likely to start. And in the kitchen, as an example, it's the oven. So you don't want to have that fire extinguisher right next to the oven. You
Yep.
want to have it at least 10 feet away. And you want it to where the person can actually get the fire extinguisher and put out the fire safely. So it's, there's life-saving tactics that I think are really, really important. And then after you can check the box on those, then it's really thinking about the injury prevention. And I think there's two levels of injury
Okay.
prevention. There's level one, which are things that we've all got to walk through the house and do an inspection on and correct for. And then level two is those discretionary items, those things that you either choose to or choose not to provide the guest, and how to think about those things.
Yeah, the example I really appreciate is, go walk through a hotel. Just do a walkthrough on a hotel. Not even go into a room. I'm not saying that, but I mean, just walk through a hotel and just take a moment to assess all the signage that's up, right? Like everything that has a sign, everything that has a warning sign, just all of those things. That's a business, and you're running a business as well, and you should probably consider the fact that you need all of that signage up around your property as well. But one of the things we talked about is a high chair. Okay, well, like for some of our properties here in Central Florida, where everyone that comes through our property is a family, and let's say 70% of those families have small children who at home would use a high chair. Okay, well, a safety strategy may dictate that, well, you don't want to provide a high chair because maybe it's not being inspected after every guest stay. You don't know if that high chair's broken. You don't know anything about the state of that high chair from a guest to guest perspective. So remove the high chair, and oh well, just reimburse. If a guest needs a high chair, take it out of your rate and discount them off the rate to go buy a high chair. Maybe that's where your risk tolerance is and you're going to take that step. But I do think also it's understanding that there are short-term rental owners out there that are going to say, "No, I'm going to offer a high chair." Like uh, that's fine. You're telling me there's some risk there, but I'm willing to take on that risk in order to provide the experience for my guest. Okay, I'll say it. Knowledge is power, and this type of knowledge is going to empower you to make the right business decision based on your your tolerance for the risk that you're taking as a business owner.
Yeah, I think when we think about the injury prevention category, these discretionary items, the level two items, it's
Hmm.
the high chair, it's
Yeah.
the pack and play. It's you if you're on a lake providing some sort of water device, a boat or something along those lines. It's a golf cart if you're in a community where golf carts are essential to get around. I think about it this way. As owners, the more that we choose to provide to our renters, the more responsibility and the more accountability we have. So when I think about responsibility, well, if I'm providing these things, each of these items that I'm providing requires me or my cleaning team to do an inspection on them to make sure they're in good working order before the next guest. What could that be? Well, we know that pack and plays are a big issue with injuries to hands and to fingers getting pinched. And are they working properly? With high chairs, the safety straps, are they in good working order? The same with strollers. So, again, there's a responsibility to inspect all of those things and to ensure they're in good working condition for the next guest. But even if they are, you're still taking on responsibility that you're now accountable for. If someone is injured in your pack and play, in your stroller, and by your, I mean things you provide, well, you're taking on that potential liability as well. So, one of the tactics that I've started doing is I don't provide the pack and plays. That's an option I chose not to because there's just so many injuries reported from pack and plays or a similar device. But if I've got a guest who desperately wants one, what I'll tell them is, hey, there's a Target, 100 yards away. If you pick one up, I'll reimburse you the $100 it's going to cost you. I don't mind doing that. I'd rather pay that 100 than to take on the liability that comes with providing it. High chairs, I provide. Those are easy to inspect, and those straps are so durable, the likelihood of them being damaged is very, very low. So again, my tolerance level says provide the high chair, that's okay. Pack and play, not so much. And when it comes to water devices or golf carts, man, I would stay away from those like crazy. But again, that's my risk tolerance, and I don't want to take on that responsibility or accountability.
And I think that's the perfect transition. So I mean, we kind of again just recapped a lot of what we talked about last week, and we went into a little more detail about how to think about it and how to change your mindset. But from there, I really want to dig in TC to, we've had an eventful month because we're doing a deep dive onto safety. This started with the conversation with Proper Insurance, who specializes in short term rental insurance, and that led us down a path to Breezeway and Justin Ford and safety. And then the entirety of the time, you and I are going, racing between properties, between guest stays, doing assessments, seeing where we stand, and doing the certifications in order to do that effectively. So we've done a lot in our properties over the last month. And this is coming from two people who have extensive experience in providing safe service and hospitality experiences at varying degrees of scale, including massive scale. So even for us, we're like, oh my God, we have a long list of shit to do, but we've done it. So I think now, like, let's really dig in and give our listeners a little insight into some specific items that we have and are planning to work on across all of our properties.
Yeah, and to me, this is the category of level one under injury prevention. So
Yeah.
I think it'd be good to recap for our listeners the common things that we found across most properties that we had to really address. So we'll
Yeah.
start with fire extinguishers, having one on each level and making sure that they're at least or they're mounted at least 3 feet above the ground. 3 to 5 feet is the right area. A lot of folks don't like to put them out in the open, so we have found pantries to be a good place to put them. But if you put the fire extinguisher in the pantry and you mount it on the wall, you got to put a sign on the outside door alerting the guest that that's where the fire extinguisher is. Why do you do that? We have to remember that our guests are not familiar with these properties the way we are. So we have to let them know where things are because they're not going to know it automatically. And then the second fire extinguisher upstairs, again, in a location that's going to make it easy to grab and to extinguish a fire if one does start. So fire extinguishers, one per floor, properly mounted and signed if they're closed in either a cabinet or a closet door. Next is the first aid kit. So we all had first aid kits, but again, it's putting it in a location easy to find and signing it. So we have a sign that says fire extinguisher and first aid kit in here. It's a 3x5. It's small. It's not overly. It doesn't ugly the property, as my wife would say, um, but it lets the folks know where they are. Next is the if you have a pool. So we have a pool and we have the pool rule sign mounted, which we all should. But we also wanted to make sure that a pool safety hook and a safety ring were available, easily available.
So TC, why did we need both? Because that was something that I was blind to, and you kind of opened my eyes to that. Why we needed
Yeah,
both
so
of them and
the
not
way
one.
the way I think about this now, again, a bit differently is, a lot of times kids are in pools and you want somebody out there supervising. Well, like it or not, we tend to send grandma out there to watch the kids. And with grandma out there, you want to make sure the safety hook is a cool device. It's connected to an extension pole, easy for grandma to just pull off the wall, and it's got a safety ring at the end. And grandma can just reach out and a child can grab onto that ring and grandma can easily pull them in. So that's one type of safety device and rescue device. And then the ring is someone struggling out there. You throw the ring that they can just hold on to and float themselves. They're a little bit of an older child and they can easily float on that ring. So two different types of devices gives the person on the pool deck an opportunity to provide safety and rescue to someone who might be struggling in the pool.
And this is where, again, going back to what you mentioned with the fire extinguishers, um, or even the first aid kit. The exercise that I like to run with other short term rental owners is, okay, don't tell me where the first aid kit is, but I just cut my hand really bad because you had a dull knife and I was, prepping food, and I just cut my hand real bad. This is a 6-bedroom house with 4 baths. I need to go find the first aid kit, and you can't tell me where it is. How long is it going to take me to find? Oh, well, Tim, it's in the guest bathroom linen closet. Okay, well, I'm not going to find that very quickly. And same with the fire extinguishers. The number of fire extinguishers I see in short-term rental homes that are in the cabinet, either right next to the stove or pushed to the very back under the sink in an emergency. And I hope everyone listening has, well, I hope you've had to deal with an emergency so that you understand how you think in those. But in many cases, people haven't. They haven't dealt with a kitchen fire before. You're not really thinking clearly, right? Like you're kind of focused on the flame. And the last thing you want to do, especially if it's not your home because you're renting it, the last thing you want to do is run toward the fire on the stove to go get that fire extinguisher because it's right next to the stove, right? But, that just goes back to everything we're talking about here, installing for safety. As a short term rental owner, you may be focused on the aesthetic, as we said. So you may want to take that pool hook and put it on the other side of a pillar so that when someone walks onto the patio, the pool area, they don't see it. Well, you need them to see it. And I know, TZ, you and I have had quite a few conversations where you and I are on video walking a home and like, where do we put the pole? Where do we put the pole? And it's like, well, you want to put it when you walk out, you see it and you know it's there. And hopefully you never have to use it. But if you do, you see it and you know it's there.
That's right. And, with the first aid kit, the example of someone cutting themselves while working in the kitchen,
Hmm.
it's one thing to let them know where it is. It's another thing to make sure that your cleaning team is always opening up the kit to make
Yeah.
sure it's properly stocked. I mean, what happens if, yeah, you've got the kit in there, but they go to open it up and everything's gone because prior guests have used it. So it's another level of inspection that your cleaning team has to provide. The next one that we really focused on is, we had night lights installed throughout all of our properties. I mean, several of them.
Yeah.
to where for that unfamiliar guest, that person who's not really familiar with your property, they get up at night, they need to find the restroom or something. We had night lights installed everywhere to illuminate their pathways. What we found was that, and the course pointed this out, is a night light is typically an outlet that a guest might want to use to plug in something else. So they take
Right.
out the night light. So we found this really cool device. I'm sure many of our listeners are probably already using them. It's made by Snap Power, plugged to Snap Power, but it's an outlet, and you simply replace your current outlet with a Snap Power outlet, and the bottom of it provides illumination for the pathway. Really, really easy to install, not expensive at all, but it avoids the risk of I unplugged the night light to use it to plug in my phone, and therefore I didn't have the path illuminated. So it's just another way of thinking about little things like that, Tim.
Yeah, and middle of the night on the first night you're a guest at a short-term rental and your child or you get up to use the restroom, this is the first time you've walked through the property in the dark. So think about like the likelihood that you don't know the space well enough and you're going to trip and fall and potentially hurt yourself, or your child is going to trip and fall and hurt themselves, not because you did anything egregious. It's because this is a new space for people. This is the first time they're trying to navigate it, and we need to do what we can to make that easy for them to do. And I think that outlet covers a one of many great examples that you know the guest isn't going to rent your property and go, oh my gosh, like it was a really nice property, but what really did it for me and why I was glad to pay the rate I paid was because they had those outlet light covers. No, but the fact that someone didn't trip and fall and injure themselves is more valuable in my opinion, because you're not detracting from their experience, and they're relatively cost effective, just in terms of having to install them. Now, are and we need to talk about this, but are we installing them at every outlet in all of our properties? I don't think we've talked about that yet.
Yeah, we didn't replace every outlet with these. The way we thought about this, and we'll be in when installing some more here very, very
Yeah.
shortly. But it's the idea of you're in the bedroom and you wake up and you need to find a restroom. Walk that travel path to the restroom and then look for the outlets and place them strategically. Now, you could play it really, really safe and just replace every single outlet with them. No harm, no foul. It's just the way we think about it is, you know, follow the travel pattern that a guest is likely to need and
Hmm.
illuminate it well. And again, it's thinking about the property from the guest perspective and not from your perspective. Yeah, we know you can get from the bedroom to the bathroom without light. Sure,
Yep.
you know the property, but a guest doesn't, or small child. So give everyone the opportunity to be able to walk around the property at night. What's beautiful about them is, you can buy some that are motion sensitive, so they just don't stay on all night keeping you awake. But the minute there's any motion, they come on. So many options to look at.
It's important before we jump back into all the different things we're doing. You know, you may be listening and going, okay, someone walks through the property, they trip and fall. That sucks. But I don't think it's too much of a risk for serious injury, so I'm not going to do anything about it. And you know TC, I think it's important that we remind our listeners of the reality of you know something like a trip and fall or a slip and fall that maybe you don't think is being as detrimental to your business as it really is. I mean, these are all items that could get you in some legal trouble, depending on the individual and depending if that individual slips and falls. And, not everyone handles slips and falls the same way. There's a subset of our population that a trip and fall can lead to a very serious injury. I mean, something as simple as just a small a small fall can fracture someone's hip, and that's what you need to be mindful of. It's not looking through all of these problems and solutions through your lens, but looking at it through the lens of the guests who may stay in your property. And that's a small child, that is parents, that is grandparents, adults that may be, because they're on vacation, inebriated. That's the lens that when you and I look through it, it's like, okay, you and I, uh, we can navigate a property in the dark pretty easily, and if we bang our leg on something or if we fall, I think we're going to be okay. Um, that's not everyone, and we have to look at it from that perspective of a larger population set than just your and my demographic, right?
That's exactly right. And I think you touched on small kids and just a a wide population of possible guests. The next one I really think about is the pool. So if your
Mm.
property has a pool, I think there's several ways we have to think about that because that's a risk area. So, we talked about having the pool sign, the rules. We talked about the safety and the rescue equipment. But we also need to think about what are the ways that we can prevent a small child from reaching the pool without being noticed by an adult. And we've thought about this many ways. First of all, we've got fencing and enclosure around the pool. That's number one. Number two, when the sliding glass door to the pool is opened, there's a voice alert saying sliding glass door open. There's another way that a parent can find out a small child is going out. But we were also looking for another one, and we struggled with this. We first looked at the bars that can be installed on the sliding glass doors that prevents the door from being open. Well, children can take that bar and run away with it, so that's no bueno. The next thing we looked at, which we're installing now, it is a very small device that's actually installed on one of the sliding glass doors. When you push it down, the sliding glass door can open freely. When you press it again and it pops out, it prevents the door from opening. It's something a child can't reach and a parent has to control. So it's thinking about it's one more way that you can provide a safe environment and confidence for a parent that their child is not going to walk out to the pool unnoticed. And I think these are areas that we've spent a lot of time thinking about. And I think for our listeners, they get the benefit of all the things that we're trying. Some things aren't working, some things are. The things that aren't working, we'll discard. The things that are, we're going to keep and continue to recommend to our listeners.
Yeah, and just like all of us, we're all learning, and I think that's what the important piece with collaboration and working together with other short term rental owners is you have someone that's been doing this for 20 plus years, and you have someone else who's been doing this for 6 months, and you'd be surprised the number of lessons that each can learn from the other. I didn't think about a majority of my properties in Central Florida. I I offered a stroller, right? Like there was just a stroller in there for the guests because I thought it's a little amenity. It's not game changing, but it's something that it's a small stroller. If something happens or the guests were to need it, it's there for them. And the question that was raised to me, and TC, you're the one that asked me. You're like, so Tim, when a guest puts their small child into that stroller, and let's say they take it to Disney, did you just extend your liability as a short-term rental owner, you know, 15 minutes away from the property because you gave them something that they are now relying on to be safe? What happens when they get to Disney and something happens with that stroller, it breaks, it injures the child in some way, and you've provided that amenity and they're not even under your property? And I was like, get rid of the strollers now. But it's that type of sharing and understanding everyone's perspectives that I think the real power of community really shines through from a safety perspective.
That's a great way of thinking about it. And, as we continue down the list, we've also installed safety cards at every property. And that safety card we place right by the telephone. Again, I don't think we've talked about this in the past, but you should have a wired telephone in the property so that there's always a way for your guest to contact an outside first responder. But we put a safety card by the phone, and that safety card lists critical information: the address of the property, the phone number of the property, certainly 911, which most people know, but also the number for the police department, where the fire extinguisher is located, where the first aid kit is located. So the safety card is now placed right by the phone. Why do we do this? Well, if someone is injured and they go to the phone that's wired, great, you get a dial tone, you call. Where do I call? I'm not familiar with this area. I don't even know the address of the property. Or I'm panicked and I can't think straight. This safety card is going to provide the guest with all the information they need, or at least most of the information they need, to contact the right person and provide the information needed by that first responder so they can respond properly. And that makes me think of something that had totally escaped me, which was the number on the outside of your home.
Yep.
So you called that first responder and they're on their way. How do they find your property? You've got to have that street number on the outside of your property. It's got to be a certain height, Tim. I'm forgetting, it's either 4 or 5 inches, but it's got to be prominent and it's got to be illuminated so that first responder can find the property easily.
Yep. Yeah, and it's first responders. It's the first time a guest arrives to your property. Let's assume they arrive in the middle of the night, and you don't have that number illuminated. Maybe the entire property isn't lit up. You're creating a safety issue, or a potential for a safety issue, as they're trying to get out of the car with multiple suitcases. Everyone's tired. It's been a long travel day. The kids are half asleep, and you're trying to navigate into this property, and it's completely dark. And you had to drive by it 4 times because you couldn't see the address. You and I were working through this, and we had one of our properties that we have this mutant bush. I mean, it's beautiful, but I feel like it was maybe 2 feet high last month, and then this month it's starting to cover the number to to the home. So we had to we made sure we took care of that and made the number visible. But those little touches, you don't think about from that. Okay, a first responder, if there's an emergency, they need to be able to find your address. And they're not really just, going to sit there on Google Maps necessarily and just say, we're here. They're looking for an address to validate they're at the right place. The safety card, touching back on the safety card, we went ahead and made a safety card template that if you reach out to us, after you listen to the episode, feel free. My contact information is usually, if not always, in the description of the show. But reach out to me, email me, and I'll send you a copy. It's a basic. It's meant to be basic. It's meant to be simple, but it allows you to put all of your property specific information onto the card, and then posting that in a prominent place in the short-term rental will allow you to make sure you're giving the guests that basic information. How many times have you checked into a short-term rental, and if you were quizzed, you could recite the address of the property if there were an emergency, right? The answer is never. I could never
Never.
tell you, oh yeah, here's the address, here, come help. I would be scrambling and trying to find it. I'd be having my phone, I'd be scrolling through emails trying to find the address. And instead it should be part of that information. So reach out, and I'll send you a copy of our safety card for you to post in your property. No problem.
Yeah, the next thing that you and I both carry in our pockets all the time now is a GFI outlet tester. Something that I had not given enough thought to, but most properties have GFI outlets. And
Mm,
there's a way that you can verify that those are operating correctly. I mean, they install GFI outlets for a reason, and you
right.
want to make sure they are operating correctly. So you can purchase a GFI outlet tester. They're like 10 to 15 bucks, depending on the model you buy. And it's simply you plug it in to the GFI outlet. There's a button you push, and by pushing that button, it evaluates the health of that outlet. And we carry them with us all the time now. And every time we're around a GFI outlet, we just give it a try.
Yep.
And lo and behold, it's another precautionary measure that we can take that's low cost and easy to do.
So I mean, we've definitely kind of run through a lot of what we've been working on in our specific properties. The list is longer. I mean, we've been working on this for quite some time. TC, any other top line high priority items that are burning a hole in your mind that you want to make sure our listeners are aware of? Even with all of our experience, we found that we had a gap and we had to fill it.
Yeah, I think there's probably two more things, and we'll hit on them quickly. But one is, we talked about having rental agreements in the past. I think it's
Yeah.
very important that all of our listeners that own short-term rental properties have rental agreements. We've added a page at the very end of that rental agreement that lists safety items. And we do that because, again, we want to create awareness. What kind of things do we put on there? Well, that a child should be at least 6 years old or older to sleep in the top bunk of a bunk bed. Secondly, we remind the renters that it's one child per bed of the bunk bed. So if you've got a bunk bed, upper and lower, that's two kids, and the one on the top should be 6 years old or older. We go through some basic things of, safety measures such as fire extinguisher and so forth. So we now add a safety component to our rental agreement. I think that's a great way to create awareness. And then we always send that to the guest prior to check-in, so they have it once again for top of mind awareness. And then finally, I would say, we've talked about doing pre and post inspections and taking a comprehensive set of photos. Make sure that those photos, pre and post, include good visuals of your safety items so
Yeah.
that you've got proof that you are providing those safety items, and making sure that the person doing the pre and post inspection capture those items in both sets of photographs. Again, another precautionary measure for you, the owner of this business.
And here's what I'll say about the rental agreements. And I will freely admit, and TC, I know you'll agree, we don't have all the answers. We learn as we go. We just have the advantage of that combined. You and I have been learning for a very long time. Um, but on the rental agreements, I think there is the question that's kind of currently being posed within our industry. And I think there's a couple, honestly, some court cases out there right now that are digging into this very topic of, if your rental allows, you know, 6 adults, 10 adults, however many, into the property, and your rental agreement has a statement on safety and it has all of this information on safety, but only the primary renter has to sign it. What does that mean if someone who didn't sign it is injured in your property? And I think there's going to be some clarity on that on the law side here very quickly. Uh, I don't have the answer. I my gut says that's a risk. That's a legal risk for so many short term rental owners, because your responsibility is not just to provide a safe environment for the individual who signed your rental agreement. It is to provide a safe environment for everyone staying in the property. So, what does that mean for individuals to validate or position something to validate that everyone staying in the property has reviewed and signed the the safety components of staying at the property? I don't have an answer. TC, I don't think you have an answer. I think it's a matter of, we all need to be aware of this and be trying to, paying attention to what the direction is going to be here moving forward with rental agreements specifically related to safety.
Yeah, and the way we're thinking about it currently, and I think those are all the right questions. We make sure that we have signs in the house notifying the guest what the Wi-Fi connection is. We consider that a priority because everyone wants Wi-Fi. Well, next to the safety card by the phone, again, it's just a little easel that holds this. I think you put what we're trying is we're putting the most important safety items on a little card that we put on the easel, and we change that out when it needs to be changed out. And we try to keep that as current as possible. So it's just one way that you can create awareness with guests that didn't sign the rental agreement. Not sure it's the best way. We're constantly looking for ideas. So any listener that's come up with an idea, please feel free to send it
Please
to us.
share. Yeah.
But I think it is that sign that highlights the key items, such as bunk bed. We know bunk beds are an issue, such as pool. Some key safety issues. Doesn't have to be 100 items, just the real important items that we want to make sure every guest is aware of. It's just one more way to create awareness. And once again, pre and post photos, make sure the photographer captures those items as proof that you provide this level of awareness to all guests.
And some real time some real time brainstorming as you brought up the Wi-Fi. I do wonder, TC is, what's the one thing everyone's going to use, every adult's going to use in your property is probably the Wi-Fi. Is there a solution? And maybe we can follow up with this, or I'll research it on my end as well. Is there a solution that in order to sign on to the Wi-Fi at the property, you need to review the safety guidelines of the property? I mean, that's the type of problem solving where, like, I don't know. Maybe some of our listeners have tried that. Maybe they've been successful trying that. Maybe they tried it and it didn't work. I don't know. But it's, again, going back to the power of our community that we're building in the short term rental and the real estate investment space, where, over time, we're going to be able to build a great resource for everyone to say, here's what I tried specifically to that problem that you know TC and Tim brought up on that episode, and here's what worked for me. And then someone else can chime in and say, yeah, that's great. I tried it too, and I did this additionally, or I didn't do this aspect of it, and it worked for me as well. So I think there's a lot there, but I do wonder, if there's a opportunity with signing on to Wi-Fi that allows you to capture more of the renters or more of the guests of the primary signing rental agreement renter.
Yeah, I do know that there's technology out there that provides a splash page when someone goes to
Yeah.
log in, and your splash page can be your safety items if that's what you choose it to be. And I think it's a great idea. And I think, Tim, before we get into the wrap, I think we promised our listeners some some ways to save some dollars on their insurance premium. Again, connecting back to the podcast we did with Nick at Proper Insurance. Why don't we touch on those three or so things that we know that insurance companies like Proper offer a discount to your premium if you can prove slash demonstrate that you have them in your home?
Yeah, you've been dealing with Proper directly and you've had some great experiences. So I'd love to get you diving into that a little bit.
Yeah, I love many things about Proper, and one of them is that they are so proactive and they're willing to provide discounts for owners that take preventative measure. I love that about them. And the three things that we're really working on to get these premium discounts. One is, we both took the safety course and we're now certified. And most importantly, we've done the inspections on properties. And
Right.
having that inspection done and sending it to Proper, they're willing to provide a discount. Other insurance companies might as well. We're very familiar with Proper. The second one is having some sort of noise aware or noise alert technology in the home that alerts you, the owner, if the house is over occupied, meaning your rental agreement says you can occupy 8 and they've got 15 people there. Being aware of it and being able to react to that is a great way to mitigate risk, and Proper is willing to provide a discount to your premium if you can demonstrate that you have one of these technologies. We happen to use Minute, Minut, great platform, very easy for the owner to use and interact with the guest. And then the final one is leak detection. And if you think about how much damage water can do, this is where, Proper, once again, very proactive, If you have leak detection technology installed that either alerts you to a leak or automatically shuts off the main water when a leak is detected, they're also willing to offer a discount for that as well. There's many technologies available, but if you go on the proper insurance website, they list the two or three platforms that they highly recommend. So three ways. Number one, to provide a safe environment, but number two, to help you, the owner, get some discounts on your insurance premium if you work for if you have insurance by great companies like Proper.
Yeah, and I think we all know, that there's a small problem that's growing in the short-term rental industry, and it's the lack of insurance providers willing to insure these short-term rentals. So, the companies like Proper who are doing it and specializing in it, they understand the benefit of you taking uh, uh, putting a focus on safety within your property, and they're going to, reward you accordingly. Um, you know, in TC, as I think again to our listeners and the amazing conversations I've had with them, I think our self-managing listeners they're going to understand the importance. This is their business. They need to take ownership and they need to prioritize safety. I do know some of our listeners who are going to respond with, and I love them, but they're going to respond with, Tim, I don't need to worry about this. I have a property manager. I pay a property manager to deal with this. I don't need to worry about it. Um, and then my follow up question is going to be, well, what does your property management do to ensure safety and ensure there are safe practices and processes in place within your property that they are managing for you? Tim, I don't know. They got it though, and I think that's probably the most dangerous uh, dangerous lack of strategy that you could implement in your property because the federal, the state, the local regulations, if your property manager can't speak to those, you have a big problem on your hands. If your property management can't speak to what they're doing to limit serious injury up to and including death within your property, you should probably look at a different property management, or you should probably consider this is your business. Maybe you should self-manage your business. But I always want to caution that just because you employ a property manager doesn't mean they have safety as their top priority in how they do business. Some do. Some do, and I'm not saying this is, every property management company, but I do want to challenge everyone who uses a property manager. Get on the phone with them today, this week at the latest, and schedule a call to review the safety within your specific property and the systems and processes they employ to ensure essentially that safety is a priority for them as they manage your property for guests. And my gut tells me you're going to be, in most cases, sadly disappointed in the response you get and the unwillingness that you're going to get from many property managers to engage in that conversation.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what your property manager tells you. What do you have
That's
in
true.
writing?
Yeah.
Does your agreement that you have in place with your property manager, does it detail out the preventative safety measures that they utilize and live by? And then secondly, even if you have it in writing that your property manager provides this level of prevention, when they do the various tactics, such as changing out smoke alarm batteries, are they giving you written proof that that work has been done? Because again, you still own the responsibility and the liability. So make sure you have it in writing and make sure you get written evidence that the work has been done and keep it as part of your file, part of your records for that property.
Yeah, if you have a property manager and you have a guest and they, trip and fall in the pool area, injure themselves, uh, who's going to be pointing the finger at who in that scenario? And just ask yourself that question because it falls back on you, the owner. The property manager isn't going to call you up and say, "Hey, there was a slip and fall. Someone went to the hospital. Turns out they broke their ankle. Don't worry, we got it." I don't I don't think that's the scenario that you're going to be dealing with as a owner with a property management company. But I just don't want people caught off guard if their property manager isn't placing the proper emphasis on safety and security within the property. That's a huge blind spot. If you need to use a property manager, I feel like I could argue the 10 reasons you don't. Maybe that's a future episode because we could touch on it again. But if you feel like you need to use a property manager, okay, but that doesn't absolve you from the responsibility of safety, just to be clear.
Right on. Is it time for a recap?
It's time for a recap and another great episode. And thank you to everyone for listening to 2 straight episodes on safety. It is the top key of your business. So we definitely wanted to have more of a broad approach and then more of a detailed approach with some insights on what we've been doing. So thank you to everyone. And TC, let's sum this up.
Yeah, I think we'll try to keep this recap high level because we did go into
Yeah.
quite a bit of detail here. But, we started talking about kind of the three categories of safety. The first two you appropriately coined as non negotiable. One is make sure that your property complies with all federal and state safety standards and codes. Number two, pay top priority, non negotiable, to items that prevent catastrophic outcomes, serious injury or death. And I think what we touched on for that is ingress, egress, fire extinguishers, those things that can really cause serious harm if it's not a top priority for you. And then we get into the third category of the injury prevention, and we broke those down into level one, level two. Level two was discretionary items, the things you provide to a renter: high chairs, pack and plays, boats, watercrafts, golf carts, all of those things that you elect to provide. You have responsibility and accountability. Responsibility to make sure they're in good working order, good repair. Accountability, if they're not, man, it's on you. And then level one, it's all the things we just touched on. It's, reaching out to someone that's a certified inspector, have them do the inspection on your home to check the many, many details that we covered. And we only covered, some of them. There's many, many more. Next, we talked about, having that safety card and safety items by the phone in your property so that all guests are aware. Adding to your pre and post photos, making sure that the photographer captures all your safety items so that you can demonstrate that you provide a safe environment. Finally, we talked about some money-saving tactics that you can reach out to your insurance company, and once you can demonstrate proof that you have these things in your home, you can get a nice discount. Tim, I think that's a good summary.
Yeah, and I think that's there's a lot of resources online to dig in further. Reach out, as I mentioned, reach out to me, get that contact or the safety card, so you can get it placed in your property in a prominent position if you haven't already. Reach out to me if you have more questions on safety. As I said, I am a short-term rental certified safety inspector, so I can do my best to help guide you. But TC, I think that wraps up a deep dive into safety today for short-term rentals. We're not just in the business of providing a place to stay. We're in the business of providing a safe and secure experience for our guests. So, building that awareness, building that trust really starts with safety. So, everyone, I hope you found our discussion helpful. We really are here to help. We're here to support you in your vacation rental journey. So don't hesitate. Reach out if you have any questions, need further advice. Again, Vacation Rental Blueprints here to help. Stay safe. Keep striving to make your vacation rental the best it can be. But until next time, happy hosting.